Okay, can we go on to the slides, please? Good morning to all of you. Hope all of you are able to hear me. Good morning to all of you. I first of all welcome you all to this session called The Role of Logistics During the COVID-19 the Pandemic. Actually, our chairman, Mr. Britto, should have participated in today's program, but unfortunately, as he is stuck with some other urgent business because of the lockdown, he is unable to come and join us in the session. And as you may all be aware, the lockdown is being lifted today, and Kerry will be having loads of work. So obviously, he has the priority. He has to give priority to that. So we also agreed for it, or else he would have definitely joined. Anyway, now going on to the role of pandemic, all of us will listen to this carefully, note down your questions, and at the end of the session, there will be a question and answer session. And you may ask all your questions at the end of the session. And if you want an elaborated answer, you may contact us on the email, which will be shown in the slide at the end of this session. So all of us know the COVID-19, the pandemic, which started in Yuan in China, started spreading slowly and taking up the whole of the world. The pandemic started in China, but surprisingly, it never affected Singapore until recent times. It straight away took off Spain, Italy, and a portion of the United Kingdom. And after that, it started striking the United States. This is basically because of many people coming down from China to all these countries. And this pandemic was carried by these passengers and they were spreading. And as you may be aware, Italy faced a very drastic situation in casualties. Spain faced a very drastic situation in casualties. And after that, it was United Kingdom. And later on, it was the United States of America. Now, the question here is, yes, the pandemic started. What was the result of the pandemic? If you look at the result of the pandemic, it was very disastrous. The entire global economy fell down because of the pandemic, because factories were getting closed down, productions were stopped, and the markets were closed. So all these things were bringing in a lot of discomfort to the world's economy. And hundreds and thousands of people were getting affected because of this virus. And as you may be aware, the hospitals, they were not really prepared to face such a drastic situation, to accommodate such a high population. And the hospitals were facing very high problems for accommodating the patients. And secondly, the hospitals also were facing in bifurcating the recovered patients from the patients who were affected newly. That means it was a stage of cross-infection. A recovered patient can get reinfected by a new patient who is coming in. So this was the situation at the hospitals. And then if you take the supermarkets were practically running empty because the supplies were not available. As you may have seen from the TV, the agricultural industry was facing a very high rate of problems because there were no workers to harvest the sugar canes or the other products. So unless or other the products are produced and brought down by vehicles to the supermarkets, there won't be any stocks in the supermarket. So the supermarkets were practically running dry. And it was a chaotic situation, not only in India, throughout the globe. In fact, in the United Kingdom, tons of milks were poured out into the siphons because there were no people to carry it to the supermarket after bottling. Then, of course, comes the solitary confinement, where people were asked to stay back at home and people were not knowing what to do, being locked inside the home. And there were many cases of psychological impacts that took over the people who were inside. People were used to a situation where they can go out anytime and they can come back to their home anytime. They could visit shopping malls, they could go to hotels, and cinema theaters, but all these things came to a grinding halt and people were glued to the TV sets. And again, if you look at every channel, they were only talking about the spread of COVID-19 and the casualties that took place. And the fifth thing is the medicines. There was an acute shortage of medicines throughout the world. As you may be aware, Trump asked India to send a huge amount of the medicine which he was thinking that would help the patients to recover. This medicine was specially made in India, and India sent a plane load of these medicines to the United Kingdom. And besides medicines, there were also the private protection equipments which the doctors will have to wear in order to avoid cross-infection from the patients. And there was a huge requirement for the PPE kits, masks, and all these things. And the saddest part is unexpected deaths due to the COVID-19. People were falling sick, and the casualty rates were very high because at the initial stages, doctors were also stumbled. They did not have any clue on what sort of medication should be provided, whether it is affecting the lungs or it is dehydrating the patient. And all these things came as a challenge. And many people were losing their lives. And it was a challenge in the entire world because, again, there were a huge number of bodies, and it posed a challenge as to how these bodies are going to be disposed, whether they're going to be cremated or they're going to be buried. And if it's going to be buried, where is the place? It cannot be buried in any place. It has to be taken to the right place to be buried. So this was all a very sad incident that was taking a toll or call on the entire globe. And thereafter, the World Health Organization came out with a requirement. They said they wanted 89 million masks, 30 million gowns. That's a PPE kit, starting from the headgear to the gown, what is being owned by the doctors and the nurses to approach the patients to take care of them. And 1.5 million goggles, because, as you may be aware, there was always a caution that do not touch your eye or do not touch your nose or do not touch your face. I think this was one of the instructions given by the health workers or the health experts during the pandemic. They said, wash your hands, and after that, touch your nose or touch your eye or touch your forehead or touch your mouth or touch your face. So they had to wear the goggles. And gloves was again a requirement. And gloves, as you may be aware, are made from special rubber called latex. And Cochin is Kerala is one of the largest manufacturers of this latex rubber from which the surgical gloves are made. And then the hand sanitizers. There was in fact, the departmental stores, which used to be having loads of hand sanitizers, practically ran empty because people were going and grabbing it. Because they thought just by applying the sanitizers, they can just get rid of this disease or they can prevent this disease. But ultimately, suggestions and plans were given by experts to make their own hand sanitizers by using ethyl alcohol and a few ingredients. And such was the situation. Now, the frontline workers who are to be appreciated, the doctors, the nurses, the policemen, and the sanitary workers, they all played a very, very important role, which was, of course, applauded by us under the request of our Honorable Prime Minister by clapping our hands. And in fact, it is very pathetic that many doctors who attended to these patients took ill by getting affected with COVID-19. And there were policemen who were standing on the road day and night watching us. But we respect them. We set thousands of reasons to cross a barrier and go. We disrespected the policemen. Why I am telling you this is, if you take the world's population, it is a second highly populated country, but the casualties of a year are not as much as it is in the US, or it is in the Italy, or in the Spain, or in the United Kingdom. And we should definitely thank the policemen. And this casualty also occurred because of us not adhering to the strict disciplinary control what was levied by the government and followed by the policemen. The sanitary workers were engaged in cleaning all the roads and spraying the anti-COVID medicines, and they were keeping the entire city clean. In fact, it would be surprising to note that the pollution level had fallen drastically in Chennai, and I believe a very black hole that was developing in the ozone had covered itself because of not vehicles which were emitting the fumes were affecting the ozone layer. So though we appreciate all these people, the doctors, the police, the nurses, the sanitary workers, there were people who were working silently behind the screen. And these people can be called the backline warriors. Who are they? Well, many things had to be done. Food products had to be moved to the stores. Harvested vegetables will have to be moved. Grains will have to be moved. Medicines will have to be flown. And there were a lot of things like, for instance, coal. Without coal, half of India will go on a blackout. So we were continuously importing coal from the Richardson Bay in South Africa, from Australia, from Indonesia, and all these places. Besides bringing our coal, our own coal that is being harvested in the West Bengal region, from the ports of Haldia and Haldia and Paradeep. So they were continuously working. We were thinking that the entire shipping has come to a grinding halt. No. The logistic workers did play a very, very important role to back up the frontline warriors. And these people enabled the frontline warriors to go towards the point of success. There were logisticians, there were port workers, the seamen who were handling the ships, the pilots who were handling the aircrafts, the truck operators who were moving the cargoes internally, the train drivers, the train guards, the train control system, the train signal stations were all functioning without rest. But we did not know this because it was always told that it was the frontline warriors. Of course, we do respect them, but we should also respect these warriors who were fighting the war from behind the screen. And thereafter, how did these people help in fighting this COVID-19? I would like to just tell you a small example. What is supply chain? Supply chain is converting a raw material into a product and taking it to the and making it reach to the end consignee. Now there's a small jump in this particular screen. The second picture on the top is harvesting the cotton from the fields. And now these harvested cottons will have to be bundled and they'll have to be taken to the factory. And that's what is shown in the second slide. They cannot be just like that taken, and it has to be bundled. So this bundling requires, there are different types of bundling the cotton which is harvested, and they are for transportation, fit for transportation. They cannot just dump the cotton as we can dump any bulk cargo. So they have to be bundled, compressed and bundled in order to take more cargo in the trucks. And these plannings were done by the logisticians. And they were moved to the factory where they were turned to threads called the yarn. Now, these threads were colored, dyed, and then they were again transported to the power loom where the cloths were made. So making these cloths, again, it is interlinked. If you look at this picture, it will talk about the producing and transportation in between links. So that's why it's called supply chain. So multiple links forms a chain. And then again, the made up clothes are transported to the factory where the PPE kits were made. And it was the work of the logisticians to move this cargo. And the experts, they made a strict, stringent quality verification. And after that, the PPE kits were made. Once when the PPE kits were made, it doesn't stop there. Again, it has to be packed, it has to be wrapped, and it has to be packed. And this was again done by the logisticians. And once when it was wrapped in polythene covers and packed, then it is ready for shipment. Now again, from the factory where it is wrapped and packed, it was moved to the port or to the airports for carrying the cargo to the destination. Of course, all the systems of transport were playing a role in this particular thing. Manufactured PPE kits were moved inside India, and manufactured PPE kits were also sent overseas. Understand that India plays a very big role in producing these sort of cotton products, and we have Bombay is known as the Manchester of India, and Coimbatore is known as the Manchester of South India. And it was all happening silently in Erode, Karur, Salem, Tirupur, and all these places. And they required to be transported. And they did it and accomplished it. And ultimately, the PPE kits reached the doctors and they were put into use. Now, I would like to just show you a small presentation, a video presentation, which will give you an idea as to what is the necessity or the role of logistics in transportation, in different types of transportation. And I'm sure you can wait for it, please. Now you can just see the video.
The planet Earth has 71% of water and 29% of land, and is also called a blue planet. In the balance 29% of the Earth, there are 7 continents, namely Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Europe, Australia, and Antarctica. And continents are separated by 5 oceans, namely Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Southern Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. There are two major transport systems, those which are pressed into service to move the cargoes from one continent to the other across the oceans, and thousands of ships are engaged to move low value dry and liquid bulk cargoes, and thousands of aircrafts are engaged to carry passengers and cargoes across the world every second, every minute, every hour, and every day in a year. Trucks of different types are engaged to move cargoes across the land of the earth, and railway wagons are supported evenly for movement of goods. Thousands of ships traverse across the ocean every minute, every hour, and every day throughout the year. High value commodities, fashion dresses, gold and bullions, life saving medicines, and harvested human parts are transported by air if they are quicker and can initiate timely delivery. You may see thousands of aircrafts flying with passengers and cargoes across the globe. Land transportation comprises of trucks and lorries to move different types of cargoes on road, and railway wagons and railway tankers to move cargoes within a country to suffice and complete the logistic chain. Logistic is defined as the arts and science of obtaining, producing, and distributing materials and products in the proper place and in the proper quantities. Logistic management is a part of the supply chain management that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective, forward, and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, and related informations between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet the customer's requirement. Difference between supply chain and logistics. Transforming a raw material into product and getting it to customers is supply chain, whereas movement of material in the whole supply chain is logistics. The 7 R's in logistics is the most popular concept, and they are getting the right product in the right quantity, in the right condition, to the right place, at the right time, to the right customer, in the right price.
Now we again go back to the slides, and I'm sure you would have learned by the video as to what is supply chain and what is logistics. Now let's go into the core of the subject to find out what is exactly logistics, why logistic is important, and what are logistics. Okay, and I'm sure these slides will help you to understand the core logistic topic more in detail, and it would help you to understand it more clearly. Yeah, what is logistics? As we saw in our previous projection, logistics is an intermediary role played by the transport contractors by using different types of vehicles to move the products from one place to the other. Referring to supply chain again, it is procuring raw material and converting the raw material into a product, thereafter storing the raw material, and then taking it to the end user. Now, when we are going to move the raw material, you require logisticians. When you're going to mark, pack, and store the materials, you require logisticians. And then when you're going to move it to the concerned places like airports or seaports, you require logisticians because there are many things to be done by the logisticians related with customs documentation, advising the port, and all these things. And thereafter, when it reaches the end destination, again the cargoes are cleared after unloading, and again customs processing for import process is being carried out. And then again transport is inducted and it is delivered to the end consignee. In simple words, logistician is a person who takes care of the entire responsibility on behalf of a shipper or a consignee and does everything right from receiving the goods at the product producing place and delivering it to the end destination consumer. So that's the role of the logistician. He does everything practically. He does the packing, he does the marking, he does the bundling, he does the stuffing into the container, he processes the papers with the customs, he seeks a space on the ship, and after that, or on the aircraft, then it is moved to the airport or to the seaport, and after that it is loaded, and after loading he gets the loading documents and hands it over to the shipper for his negotiation, and then alerts his counterparts at the other destination to take care of the cargo when it reaches there, and then once when the cargo reaches, then the discharge is looked after, and after the discharging, again the customs papers are processed, and then again the right transport system is inducted to move the cargo from the airport or to the sea or from the seaport to the end consignee, and it is delivered. That is why the 7 R's what you saw during the slide, during the video presentation are very important. Right product, right place, right time, right price, right quantity, right quality, and all these things that will be very, very, very strictly adhered by the logistician in order to discharge his duty with due care and diligence. Now, the next slide is how does it help the, if you see at the slide, raw materials are manufactured and logisticians play a role in bringing it to the supplier, and thereafter it is again moved to the factory for finishing it as a product, and thereafter it is moved by truck to the retailer, that is the POS, point of sales, like the supermarkets or wherever it is, and from there it is sent to the customer. Like if you look at the retailer, it can be even Amazon. Amazon transports the document by different modes, small vehicles, motorbikes, and it gives it to the customer. And the customer, after using it, and if he finds that it is of no use, he sends it back to the retailer, and that is called reverse logistics. Reverse logistics is if you do the same process in the anti-clock manner, it becomes reverse logistics. What happens from the consumer is not happy, it is sent to the retailer, and the retailer sends it to the distributor, and the distributor sends it to the manufacturer. And the manufacturer can either rectify the product or scrap the product if it is not good, because it has been rejected. And as you all be aware, you all must be using Amazon, and you must have had an opportunity, or you should have returned some product that was not suiting you, or that was not, we were not very happy about it. So that's called reverse logistics. So if you look at the slide, if you run the slide in the clockwise, that's what is logistics. And if you run the slide, if you read the slide in the anti-clockwise manner, then it is called reverse logistics. Okay. Now, getting into the next slide is induction of transportation, different types of transportation, and why they are done. First of all, understand air transport system envisages rapid transit time. A material which has to reach today evening is always flow, and An aircraft can at the most carry around 150 tons of cargo. And flying an aircraft using the fuel is going to be a very expensive affair. So usually products those which are of very high value, products those which require to be immediately provided to the end user, products which are bonded or which can be pilfered, like gold, bullions, they are all transported by airlines. And airlines place a very, very high level of importance in the logistic chain. And they are loaded into the aircraft by the ULDs, the unit load devices. And the unit load devices are pallets in which you can load the cargo. Why is it a unit load device is important? Let us assume that we are going to send medicines from India first to Italy and thereafter to Spain. So you cannot put all the medicines in together. So there should be two pallets, one which will be carrying the medicines to Italy and the other one which will be carrying the medicine to Spain. And probably if the flight is going to hop over and end its destination as UK, then there will be a third pallet which will carry the medicines for the UK as its destination. And more importantly, of late, these types of the passenger aircrafts are also used by the logisticians to move harvested human spares. See, they are called the green corridor. Like, for instance, there was a harvested heart and there was a harvested liver that was transported all the way from Delhi to the Mayotte Hospital in Chennai. And it all was done in a very highly planned, meticulous manner. The entry was at the last moment into the aircraft because the heart, they believe, the doctors say that it can survive for about 4 hours after getting harvested. And it requires a special container, and they fly. And these people who fly on the aircraft with cargo are called couriers, onboard couriers. And courier also is a very highly important aspect of the logistic chain. And thereafter, it is ships. After the 1980s, shipping took a drastic change in converting itself into a container trade. And as you can see from the slide, the first white container is a refrigerated container, which can carry a reefer container or temperature controlled cargoes such as fruits, vegetables, frozen meats, etc. And the second one is a flat track container, which can carry out of gauge cargoes, those which will not fit into a container, a closed container. For instance, if you are going to have a boiler that is around 45 feet in length and 12 feet in height and 12 feet in width, it cannot be fitted into an ordinary container because the dimension of the ordinary container is 8 feet in width, 8 feet in 8 feet or 9 feet in height, and then 40 feet in length. So if you calculate the LBH, this cargo, what I just uttered, cannot be fitted. So it has to be taken into the flat track container. And the third one is an ISO thermal insulated container. These containers are specially designed to carry liquid cargoes ranging from wine, which is non-hazardous, to nitric acid, which is very, very highly hazardous. So they are prepared or manufactured multi-folds with the inner coating either being coated with paints or the inner carrying container is made of stainless steel, which can withstand corrosion. And then again, down below, you see 3 types of containers. There are the usual closed containers, which are to be wind and watertight, to carry any types of cargoes, those which can be sent by containers. Okay. Lorry, understand one thing, that these four transport systems complements each other in a very, very highly competitive, in a very friendly manner. Now, let us presume that a shipment is being offloaded at Chennai port, and the shipment will have to be moved to a place where there are no railway connection. A ship cannot obviously go to its destination. And if there are no railway connection, then the cargo cannot be transported. So the lorry transport or the trucking transport helps in moving the cargo either from the airport or from the seaport to a destination where there are no train connections, number one. Number two, lorry or truck transportation is the only transport system that can provide a door delivery. You cannot expect a train to come to your door. So the transport by road, by trucks and lorries, plays a very, very important role for door delivery cargoes. And next is the train transport system. India has got loads of places called inland container depots. What are inland container depots? Places like Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Coimbatore, for example, which are located in the center place of India, heart of India. Now, ships cannot go to these places. And there are exporters, there are factories. For instance, in Hyderabad, there's a load of a very large quantity of granite exporters. And if you take Coimbatore, Coimbatore is specialized in sending a lot of cotton goods, cotton yarns, cotton made-ups, cotton clothes and everything. T-shirts. In fact, a Lacoste T-shirt, what you may buy in France, please understand that it is made in Tirupur. A Lacoste or a Puma T-shirt, which you may be buying by paying a huge cost. So the inland container depots where previously the exporters and importers were suffering because they have to transport the cargo to a seaport by lorry, and there was a big hassle in handling the cargo numerous types of times. The cargo will have to be loaded onto the truck, then the truck will have to run all the way to Chennai port, then it has to be offloaded, then the container will be brought, and then the cargo will be stopped under customs supervision, then the container will be moved to the port, and then it will be loaded onto the ship. These were all laborious. The shippers were completely blindfolded as to the information whether their cargoes has reached in the right quantity and in the right quality at the right time. So the Indian Railways commenced CONCOR, Container Corporation of India, and these trains started hauling the containers from the inland container depots such as Coimbatore, Erode, Salem, Karur, Tirupur, Hyderabad, Bangalore, New Delhi, Noida, etc. And the rail transport system is not only unique in India, it is also very, very highly complemented in the United States by the land bridge system. A land bridge system is, as you may be aware, a container that originates from the Southeast Asia, let's say for instance China, will have to be brought to any part of Europe. There are two ways you can move, either through the east or the west. Now, presuming that you're going to move through the west, the ship will carry the cargo to the west coast of America. It will offload the container at the west coast of America. Then it will be loaded onto the train, and the train will carry the container to the east coast of America and offload it. Again, a ship will carry it from the east coast of America to the European cluster, passing through the English Channel. And this particular connectivity from the east and west coast of America, or the west and east coast of America, is attributed as land bridge. It is called the land bridge. Bridge is always built across a stream of water. And since this particular bridging is done on the land, it is called as land bridge. So railway plays a very, very high important role. And one more information, as you all may be aware, the Trans-Siberian Railway that starts at Vladivostok in China or from Qingdao in China takes the route and enters Moscow. And after Moscow, it is connected onto the Eurostar, and containers are brought all the way from China by train, which is the longest haul in the world. And the Eurostar plays a very highly important role in moving the containers from China. And a lot of containers entered the United Kingdom before 1.5 years. So it's a very, very highly important mode of transportation. And you know that stranded passengers during the COVID-19 were moved in bulk by trains. Thanks to the railway department, thanks to the ministry, and the stranded passengers workforce who had gone from one state to the other were sent by rail, and they had to reach their destination. Logisticians were playing a very highly delicate role 24/7 in arranging for transportation, in arranging for stuffing the container, in arranging for destuffing the container, and dispatching it to the right end user, to the hospitals, for instance. That if there's going to be a PPE sent by a container, the logisticians played the role of dispatching it to different hospitals throughout a country, and they use different modes of transportation, and they have to be doing it in a very rapid manner in order for the PP to reach the correct hospital for the doctors to operate the COVID-19 patients. And then this is inside the aircraft, scores of medicines, scores of PPEs, scores of gloves were sent by aircrafts throughout the world, from India through various parts of the world. And aircraft was playing a very important role in the chain of logistics for delivering the cargo to the right place in the right time. And then, if you take the road transport, again, the road transport is the only transport system that can provide a doorstep, pick up the cargo from a doorstep of a consignor shipper and deliver the cargo to the right consignee at its doorstep. So road transport is one of the most important transport system. And then again, you've got the railway transport system, which can move the container from all the inland container depots to the seaport for loading the container onto the ships for connecting, or bring the containers to the inland container depots from the seaports and deliver it to the consignee who are located. So railway transport system, the road and the railway transport system are the land transport system, which complements or which plays an important role in the logistic chain. And if you take the sea transport system, that again is an indispensable, evergreen transport system which helps a country to keep itself in a very highly rich economical status. Tankers, if you see the left side picture, it is an oil tanker. Oil are brought in different stages. It can be refined oil or it can be crude oil. Crude oil are directly pumped from the oil well and they are blackish in color, and the crude oils are brought to the factories for refineries for refining. And the products what we get from the crude oil are petrol, diesel, kerosene, and lastly tar. tar is the bitumen what we use for laying the road. So oil was continuously moved even during the entire country, the world's lockdown period, because without oil, I mean, we can talk that why oil when private vehicles were unable to move, but don't ever forget that oil were used in many countries for warming, especially in the European countries for warming up. They use the heaters for warming up, and emergency vehicles such as ambulance will have to go by these trucks, by these carriers. And then comes the bulk carriers, which are used for carrying bulk commodities such as coal and other essential commodities like fertilizers. Okay, coal was very important because thermal power stations are situated on all the coast of India, and thermal power is one of the major supplier of producing the power supply to the world. So the coal was continuously moved. Then comes containers. Containers are carrying different types of cargoes, those which were very essential for human beings and and which require to be provided to them. Then again, the air transport system, as told earlier, the air transport system was complementing the logistic chain by moving medicines, harvested human spares, and other cargoes which require to be reaching its destination at the right time and at the right place, because you cannot expect medicine to reach its destination after 10 days, because firstly the medicine will have to be probably the medicine will have to be temperature controlled, and thereafter the medicine will have to reach the patients for administration on time. So it cannot be sent by a ship, and land transport cannot suit the carrying of cargo across the oceans and across the seas. So air transportation played an important role in the chain of logistics. And talking more about air cargo, DHL is one of the most important air cargo players, besides other people like Kuehne+Nagel and Schenkers and others who have their own aircrafts. And in fact, Eddie Stobart has their own aircraft to fly the cargoes in between the European cluster and to the United Kingdom. And I would like to mention here that Kerry Indev, which is a parent company, was the first. In fact, it was the brainchild of Mr. Xavier Britto to start an air freight station out here in India. We are the first, and it was pioneered by Mr. Britto. And an air freight station is like the container freight station, where all the export and import process, customs processing, consolidations, everything occurs. And the ULD, the unit load device, as I told you, is a container that is loaded into an aircraft or moved to the tarmac of the aircraft and loaded on board the ship. And thereafter, what are the types of cargo? Those which are moved by air: personal effects. Sentimental shipments refers to the human remains. People die in Dubai and their bodies will have to be moved by aircraft. It cannot come by sea. So they do the entire postmortem there, and they are called the human remains. And since we wanted to give a furnished word, it's called sentimental shipments. Then dangerous goods, valuables like gold and bullions. Then livestock, especially pets, racing horses, dogs, cats, are all transported by air because they require to reach their masters on time. And believe me, racing horses They range from 5 lakhs to 1.52 crores each. And racing horses are very expensive. In fact, to move the racing horses by road, they use a special type of vehicles which are called floats. The horse will stand on the float and the horse will not get disturbed when the vehicle goes into pits or into speed breakers and creates a unbalanced situation. Then courier, of course, couriers are required to be sent immediately. So the courier plays an important role. Then human parts. Today, medicine is advanced so much that human parts such as eye, kidney, heart, lungs, liver, and even skin for crafting are moved from a cadaver or from a brain dead patient who's in coma. So they do this, and then vaccines are moved by aircraft and expensive cars like the Rolls Royce or the Lamborghini or uh, the other racing cars are moved by aircraft. In fact, DHL handles the entire logistic for the car rally, F1, and Formula One races, the entire logistic of moving the racing cars and their spares and taking them to the right destination is handled by DHL throughout the world. And for your information, the racing starts in Australia and it just comes like COVID-19 to Malaysia, then to Singapore, then to India now, and then to Middle East, then it goes into Europe, and then it goes to the South America. Then you can see it inside the aircraft. There are rollers which are fitted inside the aircraft to move the ULDs easily, and these rollers help them to. They're like, they have the rollers and they can just the lift will take the cargo on board the aircraft, and the ULDs are pushed inside using the rollers that is fitted. That what you may see from the left side of the picture, and the right side is again a temperature controlled room or a container freight station where the containers are offloaded and then they are segregated for delivery, or they are received, they are grouped, and they are stuffed into a unit load device for dispatch into the aircraft for taking it to the right destination. And this is the way how the jacks, they lift the ULD onto the aircraft. And the second photograph is a non-pelletized cargo, which may not go into a pellet. Again, if it is not a very highly precious cargo, they are crated and they are closed with the net. But if it's going to be highly precious, then they are loaded into the ULD, because to avoid pilferage and to have it safely transported. Now we're going to play you again a slide, and it will tell you what are the opportunities, those which are available for you. Go through the slide very carefully, observe every opportunity that you have.
Our syllabus is crafted taking into consideration job opportunities, and the opportunities are transport logistics, procurement logistics, production logistics, inventory logistics, point of sales logistics, medical logistics, military logistics, cold chain logistics, event management, e-commerce, courier, warehousing logistics, inland container depot, container freight stations, air freight stations, free trade warehousing, port sector, container and car terminals, cargo stevedoring, packers and movers, bulk ship agency, marketing, operation, and documentation in General Cargo Ship Agency, tanker ship handling, ocean container management and maintenance, container liners, freight forwarding, NBOCC operation, cargo consolidation, project cargo management, dangerous cargo management, ship brokering, commercial management, custom house agency, airlines, air cargo operators, air cargo operation, marine survey, cargo insurance, import and export, maritime law.
So you might see the scores of opportunities that you have in the field of logistics if you're going to study. It is just not the port operation alone. There are other opportunities. In fact, after finishing your MBA, you can apply for your DG regulation and get a job. It is a statutory requirement that every company that is dealing with air cargo or air passengers requires 2 DG certified employees in their office. It is a statutory regulation as prescribed by the International Airport Transport Authority, IATA. Or you can do your cargo licensing and you can get a job. Now, I'm passing this program to Mr. Bernard. Mr. Bernard has been in the HR field and is working for Kerry and Dave, and he has got years of experience in shipping as well as in the human resource management. And I pass it on to Mr. Bernard for taking over this particular session, which will give you better eye opener on the job opportunities. And I shall wait on the line to conclude this session. Kindly take over. Mr. Bernard, could you kindly take over? We've got a slight connectivity problem there. Just kindly wait. Okay, the future. Let me continue until Mr. Bernard joins. What is in score as far as India is concerned in the logistic industry? The economy of India is definitely growing. I'm telling you, now with this COVID-19, as we have started on COVID-19, I would also try to tell you the benefits of COVID-19. America is going to stop all their trading activities with China. China has been the premier giant so far, who has been, exporting a huge amount of various types of commodities to the United States of America, United Kingdom, to the Middle East and all. Now people are going to definitely think about importing it from China. Next country that can provide land, cheap workers, fast connectivity, and the best of logistics is India. And India can provide the best thing. And it is expected to grow at a rate of 10 to 15% annually. And with the logistic playing the crude oil, so the country's GDP is also expected to go high, and the logistics sector is expected to grow to an extent of 14%. And as to the recent budget, or advised by the Honorable Prime Minister, huge amount of money is going to be spent in warehousing and cold chain logistics, because we all learn a lesson by the hard way, and that's what we have done. We now realize that we did not have many warehouses to store the food items, and our cold chain was totally lacking because we were unable to move the essential commodities such as fruits and vegetables from one state to the other. In fact, there is a very interesting study made by KPMG which says that nearly 46% of the fruits that's grown and harvested in India are going to waste due to lack of cold chain. Cold chain doesn't just confine to logistic alone. It also refers to having various types of refrigerated warehouses. For instance, you require a temperature control, different temperature control for storing fruits. Like if you take the fridge in your home, you will find the freezer above where you will store the meat. Then you will find the center portion of the fridge where you will store all the prepared food. And then down below, you will find the basket in which you store the vegetables. So this is how your cold chain warehouse is designed to store the frozen cargo, the temperature required controlled cargo, and then of course you've got medicines like vaccines and other medicines which require sub-zero temperature to be controlled. So this is going to bring in a lot of opportunity for the youngsters when they're going to get specialized, the cold chain and the warehousing, which is being very, very specifically taught in our college. Now you can see this is the model advertisement that appeared in one of the dailies. You can see that every portfolio in this particular advertisement relates to logistics, either transportation or couriering or containers or whatever it is. And you can see that credit control manager requires 1 to 2 years of experience, and you can just get into the branch manager's position with an MBA with 5 to 7 years. And I think it will not be out of place to say that many of our boys are today placed in the Middle East and in the Far East, that is especially in the Malaysia and Singapore. They are in very good positions, and I'm sure they will become branch in charge or the countries in charge within the years to come, because we do all the required teaching and we give the required training for you, all of you. And now, I'm sorry, Mr. Bernard is unable to get connected because of certain connectivity problem. And now I can await any short questions. I can answer it straight away. And if it requires an elaborate explanation, please share your mail ID and we will communicate through the mail. And I think Mr. Bernard is coming back. Can I request Mr. Bernard to carry on, please? Mr. Bernard?
Hello.
Yeah. Can you carry on from there, please?
Yes, sir. So
you can take over, Mr. Bernard.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is keeping fine and doing well. Be safe. And for more than an hour, we have listened to Dr. Rajan Babu about the logistics and the challenges the logistics industry is facing as of now due to COVID-19. And these days, we are very often hearing the words like COVID-19, masks, sanitizers, and protective equipments, and all these things. We are also hearing a word very often these days, that is logistics. Why we are hearing this word logistics during this time is, though the entire world is under lockdown, few things are moving across the globe. What are the few things that are moving across the globe that also has been explained to you, by Mr. Rajan Babu? One is the essential commodities. One is the essential commodities. What are the essential commodities these days? As I told you just now, so medicines, lots of medicines are moving across the globe, and other things like protective gloves and masks, sanitizers, and all these things. These are the some of the essential items that are moving across the globe. Then the other thing is, this can be called emergencies because at times of emergency, these things are being moved across the globe. And there are other things, essential things. What are the essential things? In order to survive, you should have food. So, food items, mainly agricultural products, grocery items, and all these things that are also being moved across the globe or across the country these days. How these things are being moved from one place to another? If there is no logistics, things cannot be moved from one place to another. And nowadays, only certain sectors or certain people are working. We all know very well that the doctors and the staff, nurses, and there are sanitary workers, and all these people are working day and night, mainly to protect the lives of the people. And also, there are people who are working to move the essential and emergency consignments, and these people are logisticians. In spite of great difficulties we are facing now in moving goods from one place to another, and these logisticians are working day and night, and they are making all sorts of arrangements for moving these consignments from one place to another. So, from this we can understand. So, logistics is required during the normal times, during times of emergency, adverse situations, etc. etc. So, all through one's life, we come across this word logistics and we depend upon logistics. And now we are talking about a recession, economic downturn, and it will take a long time to recover and all these things. Logistics is not an exception to this downturn or economic problems, etc. etc. But there are very few sectors that are going to be benefited out of this COVID. What are the sectors? Mainly pharmaceuticals. Nowadays, we know very well, including countries like America, they depend upon medical supplies from India. Even the president, sometime back, he contacted our honorable prime minister requesting for emergency supplies of medicines. So, likewise, many other countries, for that matter, and logistics. The other thing, essentials are also being moved from one place to another place, as said. But we are facing, or we have faced in the first and the second stage of this lockdown, logistics industry faced lots and lots of problems because of the interstate restrictions mainly. But slowly we are recovering. Slowly industries are starting up, and they have to move the raw materials from one place to another place, and the finished goods from their factories to the consumers. So things are picking up slowly, and we hope in the coming days things will be better, and we will come to normalcy very soon. Now, COVID 19 has a lot of challenges. At the same time, lots and lots of opportunities for logistics sector. So I would like to mention only two aspects. One is e-commerce. E-commerce is gaining a lot of importance nowadays, especially at times like this. Sitting at home, we can order for food and we get the food delivered at our doorsteps. We can order for any other material, we get our uh, uh, the same thing at our doorsteps. How this is possible? The click of the button, we place an order using a cell phone, and the product is delivered to our doorsteps. We are sitting at home doing nothing, watching TV and cell phone, YouTube or other things. But there are people who are working day and night for moving the consignments from a remote place to our doorsteps. So logistics plays a very very vital role, and this is going to be the fact at any point of time. And the logistics in the coming days, e-commerce is going to grow. Like I will give some examples. Even companies like Britannia or fast-moving consumer goods, any company for that matter, now because of lots of big, what to say, provision stores or grocery stores are closed down, these companies which produce FMCG products, they are directly supplying the goods to remote places also. And they say their market share in the rural areas is picking up. And that is going to be the order of the day in the future as well, they say. So, because of this, there will be lots and lots of demand for logisticians in the e-commerce field. Any product, click of the button, you order something, and it is delivered to you. So e-commerce is going to be a big thing in the coming days, in the coming years. The second thing is cold chain. We know very well, many of you may not be knowing that agricultural products, mainly fruits and vegetables, they are wasted in our country to the tune of 18,000 crores per annum. Why? There are many reasons. One of the reasons is we don't have
I read it.
proper storage facilities. Especially during the times of COVID, we are seeing, we are hearing, and we are watching. Agriculture is not taking place as normal, and many farmers are crying because their produce is going waste because they are not able to move the cargo or move the consignments, move the produce to other places or to the markets. This could have been avoided perhaps if we had proper cold storage warehouses in different parts of the country, especially where the cultivation of agricultural products are there. So, in the coming years, now we have understood the importance of cold storage warehouses, because if we had such warehouses in large numbers, we could have stored the products in such warehouses in times like this, so that the farmers would have benefited, the products wouldn't have been lost, and also the products would have been available to the consumers at a reasonable rates. So, because of this, I feel that in the coming years, there will be massive investments, not only by Indian entrepreneurs, even we will be attracting a lot of FDI for investment in cold chain warehouses or cold chain logistics, totally we can say. Now, there was an interesting question. One Mr. Prabharan has raised this question. Why the agricultural products were not allowed to be moved from one place to another place? Yes, definitely, especially in the first phase of this lockdown, because nobody was in a position to understand what kind of virus this was. The prime motive of either central government or state governments was to protect the human lives. Because of that, the lockdown was 100%. There was restriction in movement of different commodities and people, including agricultural commodities from one state to another state. And we depend, the logistics industry depends on because of the lockdown, there was severe shortage of supply of trucks and severe shortage of supply of drivers. Because drivers also
Okay, I think Mr. Bernard has left. To answer Karthikeyan, because I was trying to type and I was not able to keep pace with the thing. Indian logistics sector is pegged at $250 million as an investment, and this is as per the study made by certain experts, and by 2025, the investment ratio is going to be increased to nearly $500 billion. And experts have predicted there's going to be 40 million jobs available in different facets of the logistics and supply chain industry. 40 million jobs. Skilled, unskilled, dirty jobs, white collar jobs, all put together. Dirty jobs in the sense people are attending to the vessels inside the hatches for discharging bulk cargo and so on. So the scopes are fantastic. And in order to answer the Dhanush, medium scale manufacturing enterprises are going to get any company that invests between 20 crores to 100 crores has to be registered with the MSME to avail this particular loan. And on application, it's not very clear because the MSME is not yet opened up, and they will have to now come in and they'll have to form their own rules and regulations for availing this loan. But as of now, 20% can be availed by the MSME members for cash liquidity because they have suffered now a cash crunch. But the percentage on this 20% is yet to be known. Probably today, the government has relaxed and they have told that 50% of employees can return back to their job, and MSME will be coming back because we are also eagerly awaiting some feedback from the MSME. In fact, I was supposed to contact them today in the later part of the afternoon to get to know what is the exact loan facility they're going to get and what is the percentage of interest and what is the repayment, because you can get a loan, but without knowing what is the percentage of interest and how the repayment has to be done. It is like going and walking into the wall, number one. Number two, yes, without logistics, nothing can evaluate. To conclude this subject, Dhanush, I would like to say your mother is the best supply chain expert. She knows how much of tomato to buy during this lockdown session. She knows how much of onion she has to buy during this lockdown situation. She knows how much of rice and other material she has to buy. So she is a supply chain expert. She knows how much to cook, as otherwise it can be used for many people, but you can give it to the neighbors. But today you cannot give a cooked food. So she knows how much to produce. So she is again a best supply chain expert. And then she goes to the market and she buys it and she brings it either by walking or by a car or by a motorbike or by a cycle rickshaw or by her auto rickshaw. So she does the best mode of transportation to move the vegetables from the market where she purchases, depending upon the quantity. If it's going to be huge, she'll ask your father to drive the car. If it's going to be small, she'll ask you to drive her in your motorbike. So she is again playing a very high role of a logistician. So without logistics, nothing can get performed. Today, logistics has become applied science right from birth to death. So without logistics, logistics has become a science that has to be implied into any aspects of life to carry on, to proceed, to run the life peacefully. I hope I have clarified your doubt, Karthikeyan. And Dhanush, I think I've already told you. And if you want further information on MSME's thing, you can always send me a mail and I will get, by today afternoon, I should get the entire information and I will pass it on. Thanks for this patient listening. Is there anybody who wants to ask? There is one, Vinod Kumar. What is the best way to increase profit in logistics after COVID-19? Well, after COVID-19, the logistic industry itself is going to boom because there are going to be a lot of manufacturing activities. There's a lot of FDIs which are going in to come to India because we have got a huge mass of land. Our infrastructures are being already, our infrastructures have developed to an extremely good position. By 2017, it was done by laying roads, 4-line corridors, and the national highways having vehicles, pass through various aspects. And the GST is also playing a very important role by providing a single window system for payment of all taxes. So any country that has got GST, please get into this. Any country that has got GST has always been progressing. Singapore has got GST, United Kingdom has got GST, and they are way ahead of us. So do not have a stigma on GST. It is nothing but multiple taxes which you are paying in different letouts were now being clubbed together and you're paying it in one channel. So the amount looks big, that's all. So many manufacturers are going to set up their factory in India, and there's going to be scores of the statistics. What I gave you, 40 million work employment opportunity, is published by KPMG, one of the largest statistics studying companies in the world. So there are scopes and there are opportunities, and I wish you all a good luck on this day, and thanking you for participating. I thank my principal for having given me this opportunity, and I'm sure it would have been an eye-opener for many of you, and I'm sure you'll all have a better future. Take care, be good, and be inside your home. Be safe. Thank you. God bless you all. Dhanush, I'm typing my email ID just down below. Please take it down. So that's my email ID, Mr. Darush, and you can always say, as you said, G,